All right, everybody, welcome. This is CyberBulls. It's a show about Tesla. It's a show about investing. And what's really unique about our show is that we all have very different investing styles and we all have different opinions about Tesla. But one thing is for sure, we have deep respect for each other. I really do respect these folks that are here. They have amazing information. And it's nice to see the kind of different opinions and different styles that we have. So stick around and let's talk about this. So welcome, everybody. How are you all doing?
Doing good,
Hi,
Herbert.
Great.
I love our weekly gatherings.
We had the big shareholder meeting last week. We've had a chance to sit down on it. I think it's good for us to just step back a bit after a week. Just tell us how you're feeling and what your thought about it. So start with you, Alexandra.
I'm still on cloud 7. I mean, it was great to be in Austin, and I absolutely loved it. I have the pass here, right, so that nobody forgets. There we go. I think the fact that Elon clearly said he is not stepping down as CEO for me was the main information, and I have the feeling that gave the stock market such a push over the last couple of days. I know it went a little bit further down, but it is just a complete change in sentiment. It feels like this Twitter time-consuming episode is coming to an end. Of course, Twitter is still one of his companies, but it's not the main focus anymore. And that gives us Tesla investors obviously a lot of good feelings, and I just love it. I'm still very, very happy with everything that happened.
Yeah, Christian.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Alexandra here. I think the overall mood of the meeting was great for me, and I think a lot of people that own the stock but might not be Uber bulls or pretty much anything goes that Elon does or says. I think the acknowledgement that advertising, I think even though it's a little thing, it's a little nod to some normalcy, saying, "Hey, that sounds maybe good. Maybe we'll try that." So it just gets some people that maybe are a little bit iffy saying, okay, he's going to at least try some things that the shareholders are bringing up, and he has an open-minded thing. So I think that is just a little sign saying, I'm not stuck in my ways on everything. I will bend here and there. We don't know what's going to happen. He might not do advertising. It might take 6 months, or he might drop a commercial next week. But what I do think is that it just gives a little bit of an acknowledgement to the people that maybe are on the fence. And then the third thing I'll say is the interview with David Faber. I think, it was I saw a lot of people said this, and I said this when we first came on the air last week live, is that when Elon said to David Faber, like all these tweets, that was a perfect question. Don't you think the Twitter, Linda Yaccarino can't get ads, or, your Twitter, your Tesla shareholder base may be a little bit nervous. You're tweeting all these things, all these politics. Why? And he gave the answer, I really essentially don't care. I'm not worried about it, I guess, in the short term. It kind of like took a lot of the sting that a lot of people do worry about Elon. It kind of put it all out there, and we see the stock didn't react negatively to it. So it was almost another floor to the stock saying Elon could be Elon, and people are starting to get used to it. So it almost desensitized it. So that moment was huge, I think, with that, because a lot of people, not us particularly, but institutional investors or just investors in general, like their CEOs a little more buttoned up. So if you can take that risk away, I think that gives a little people more confidence. That's just some high level stuff that I'm thinking about.
Nice.
Yeah, for me, three things. The theme of Elon is back. I think is resonating in the stock price. I think it's resonating with shareholders. I think it's resonating, potentially with institutions. I mean, there's kind of a big move, an outsized move after that meeting, and we're starting to get between, technical indicators again. We're above the 50-day, and on the way to the 200-day potentially. So let's see how it goes. So Elon is back, I think, is a key theme. CyberTruck is still on track to come at the end of this year. I think that's another key theme. And then finally, from that interview, to me, the biggest takeaway was the conversation. One of the biggest takeaways, there's a lot in that interview, was around the conversation on China. And I think Elon is trying to lead and actually set an example of here is the truth of what is happening with this conflict, and you can choose to look the other way, or you can choose to acknowledge it. And I know this could get into a debate on many different levels, but as a practitioner in the space of like, where do you put supply chains? How do you geopolitically de-risk? And he even talked about it on a recent Wall Street Journal interview this afternoon. I feel better as a shareholder and investor that he is making the right moves. He and his team are making the right moves from a supply chain geopolitical perspective. It would be a big issue if something were to happen. But it just feels like that they're acknowledging the risk and they're actually actively managing it.
Yeah, open eyes. And that brings me actually to another subject that I found astonishing, because as you know, I was there, and when that question came up by Meet Kevin on advertising, I was actually astonished how quickly Elon said, okay, fine enough, you want that. The room was roaring, and he said, okay, well, I'm going to listen to my shareholders. And then the next day came out that they had actually discussed already with Deutsche Bank advertising in length. So I was a bit, you know how women are, like fool me once, right? I was like, so were you playing a game up there and already knew that for weeks you've been working on advertising and you're doing that? Then he's actually a much better actor than I thought, right? Everybody telling me for months and years that he's out there, Asperger's, whatever, and he has his let Elon be Elon. But I mean, that would have been extremely clever, because I mean, he sold it to me. I always find that I have a good gut feeling whether somebody is BSing me or not, and he managed that very well. And I agree with you, Jeff, on China. I think that the word was, you don't even need to read between the lines. It's just out there, and gave me the clear sensation that they are prepared for any scenario. Obviously, they wish that no conflict arises, and are going to take advantage of all the advantages China can offer them today. But they're not blind, and they are certainly prepared for any case.
Yeah. And I agree. I think, though, I think Herbert pointed that out last week about like they might know, but I also saw a report, I can't remember where, that the team is on board. There are people thinking about it. They were just kind of waiting for the go from Elon. So that would still mean that Elon was on the fence whether he still wants to do it or not. So he may be thinking about it, but maybe on that stage is where, when he heard that reaction and his team pushing him, hey, do you want to maybe do something soon in the future? Maybe that together gave him the impetus to kind of say, maybe we'll give it a shot. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. So, it's very, very
my
clear
dream.
A lot of things that Elon has done, you can name them so many. He's pre-thought of everything. He's already decided before he makes announcements. This is just another one of those things. So it's not that he's trying to, he's not lying. He didn't lie. When he went up there and talked about the advertising as one example, I rewatched it sentence by sentence, and you can see that it wasn't this big surprise. It wasn't trying to lie. He just more, if you listen to the words he said. Okay. So, he's a big deal, obviously. He's becoming a lot more political, as we're seeing in terms of, the most recent announcement that he's actually going to host the DeSantis presentation, that he's going to announcement that he's going to be running for president.
Twitter Space, on a Twitter Space,
on a Twitter Space. But like the stock went up in the last week, and I just wanted to get your thoughts after the shareholder meeting. For me, it's primarily because he recommitted to Tesla, and he said that I'm going to be here. I'm going to make Tesla an AI company, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to shepherd it through this period. That to me was the biggest reason why the stock went up, and the reason why people are feeling comfortable. Having said that, I do want to remark again that the Tesla executive team is proven. They're amazing. They did things while Elon was very busy, pretty well 90% of his time, and yet Tesla still continued to do really well. But Elon's required for big things like these negotiations with the countries to make sure that the big projects are being done correctly and big moves. And he's still doing that regardless of if he wasn't and focused on Twitter or not. But now that he's fully on board with Tesla to make sure AI happens, I think that really raises the potential chance that AI, robotaxi will happen, and that Tesla will move forward with some sort of AI. And at the very least, He will repeat this in every single show, and he'll keep talking about how Tesla's an AI company. I want to ask you, Jeff, tell me if my timeline is correct, Jeff, but this is what I saw happen. You sent out a tweet in the morning and you said, Tesla, you should ask David Faber. David Faber, you should ask about Elon about Tesla being an AI company. And then at the night when he was talking to David Faber, he actually said the words you said, which is what he replied to you, which is very few people, even the developers, don't realize this. Is that what happened?
I mean, there could have been some confluence, but in general, I find it strange, given the fact that there are 400,000, maybe 500,000 vehicles on the road, over 2 tons each, driving themselves, using real world AI, that and reaping in significant revenue from those vehicles in the very early stages, but it's out there that Tesla isn't. And then if you look at the work that they're doing on the bot, and you look at the progress on that, it's surprising that they're not considered to be an AI company in financial media. And that's why I shared that clip, because that is a perception of financial media. And if you look at the multiple on an NVIDIA, if you look at what has just happened to Microsoft recently, you understand, like, hey, this, they're not really being fairly, labeled as an AI company, and they should.
But Jeff, do you think it is because people seem to start understanding AI as a communications artificial intelligence, right? Put whatever into ChatGPT and get a better qualified answer than before, and have no sense that vision is actually much more potent and much more useful? Is it that? Is it the lack of understanding that vision has so much more components to it and so if that is the case, I think we have to communicate differently, because it seems obviously normal for anybody driving with full self-drive, or even with the lower versions, but Wall Street doesn't seem to get it at all, right? That this is so much more important than just words. The vision, the reaction to the vision is so much more complex.
Yeah, the way to think about it, I completely agree. Many percent of the let's take the US, for example, many percent, I don't know the number, are aware of ChatGPT, have heard the words, understand that there's something out there that's giving you kind of artificial intelligence based responses if you put inputs into it. Many percent. What do you think the percent awareness is of Tesla's full self-driving efforts, and how they differ from other auto companies out there? What's the difference between a Waymo and a Cruise? What's the cost structure right now in a Tesla to deliver? What do you think the awareness? It's probably fractions of a tenth, of under a tenth of a percent of the population, and therein lies the problem and probably the opportunity.
Yeah. And to dovetail off that, Jeff, like, forget the general public. We got people like Dan Ives. He covers Tesla. He doesn't even mention Tesla as an AI company. He goes Microsoft and NVIDIA. There's no mention of Tesla. On CNBC, there's no mention of Tesla. And so I agree with you. If they're going to communicate this AI either, and I tweeted out about Tesla Bot, I'm most excited about that, or the real world AI with FSD. Yes, I think we've done a lot of it on Twitter, and we have people on Twitter doing it, and YouTube videos. It doesn't seem like to be cracking the mainstream yet. So maybe something else needs to be done there. And I also want to dovetail into this. I want to get your guys' opinion. I'm a macro guy. I'm a market guy too. We see these AI, anything AI, these small companies exploding, even the big ones, the Google, Microsoft, Apple, all trading at sky high valuations compared to where their earnings are. Like you said, NVIDIA, 160 times earnings, 60 times on a forward basis, if they could even reach that. And we're kind of in a tough macro. Do you think the overall market is vulnerable to a decline here, or are you more bullish with AI as a theme that could trump any possible macro downturn? I would love to just get everyone's opinion, kind of where they are on that.
I was actually thinking about that yesterday in the car. I was trying to understand where the money maker is going to be for these people, right? Because at the moment, ChatGPT, if you want version 4, you pay $20 a month, and I'm sure that's going to disappear soon as well. Obviously, the advantage of the current solutions out there that anybody can just go on their browser and put it in and test it out. That's not the case for Vision and Tesla, right? You need a car, you need to get into the FSD beta program, you have to understand it, you have to want it, you have to trust it, so that the barrier of entry is just so much higher. But the use case is also so much bigger, better defined, clearly out there. I mean, when Elon talks again about how long, I mean, I'm just looking at my cars out there, how many hours a car just sits there idle in your driveway doing nothing, right? The solution is there. The ChatGPT solution, or bot, or whichever you want to use, yes, it is here, but it is not in the same way revolutionary to our behavior. And that's why I come to your multiples. I just don't see them yet making so much more money on it than what they currently are. I mean, Google is already having an extremely profitable business, and Microsoft as well. So I don't see how they will increase their margins so much in that field, especially since the competition seems to be so comparable. I mean, we all know that Tesla's competitors, other than Gary, are not at the point where Tesla is. Yet the other guys seem to play all in the same playing field. And again, I don't see the increased margin. Maybe the volume, yes, maybe we'll see. And so I don't understand those multiples, Christian. I think we're topping out. We have got this fancy theme, right? You call anything AI, you throw it against the wall, and then try to explain them that the real AI is vision. There's nobody anymore because they can't just try it out.
Okay, so a few points to answer. One for Jeff, one for Christian, and one for Alexandra.
Good.
So for Jeff, one thing you said was that, everybody knows, 100 million people know ChatGPT. Very few people, from a small percentage, know about Tesla. But a few months ago, nobody knew about ChatGPT either. ChatGPT had a ChatGPT moment, when there's a realization by the world, and it became the number one downloaded app. But the realization by the world that AI is inevitable and it's very capable. And what Elon said was that there's going to be a ChatGPT moment for Tesla as well. So this is what I'm waiting for, right? It can happen and it will happen. Elon said that maybe, if not this year, by next year, that moment will happen. So this is a moment when people will realize that FSD is very capable and it's inevitable. It doesn't have to be full self-drive. It doesn't have to be robotaxi regulations. It's just, even if supervised, people will understand it's working. Then the second question is, all these companies are being AI, and are they being valued with high PEs? Is that going to overshoot the macro environment? Absolutely, I think so. And the reason I believe is that this is different. Okay, AI is not just a flavor of the month. It is something that, if you truly understand what it can do and what it means, it could literally change industries, not just one industry, but all industries. It's almost like the internet came, and this is like 10 times better than the internet, 10 times. And so, yes, you got to be careful which companies, because they just slapping on the label of AI. Not everyone will succeed, and many of them are kind of fake. They're just kind of incremental, but some of them are vastly transformative, disruptive. And so, OpenAI is certainly one of them. And then to answer your question, Alexandra, vision versus open large language models. I've been asking this question with Dave Lee, James Dalma, Scott Walter, as many people as I can, try to understand their answer. And what James Dalma said was that, vision AI is very different from large language model, right? Which is chat and answers and information back. And this one is seeing the world and be able to understand and understand it. Very different. However, Tesla, in order to do either of those, you needed to have a large supercomputer. You need to have mega neural networks. You have to have the team in place. You have to have all of these, AI kind of backbone. And it's not, once you have that and the culture of the company to build real world AI and labeling, you can do the same thing and attack large language models. They can do something as well. And so you heard Elon say at the interview and he said that we're going to become ChatGPT before they become us. Something in that nature. So this is
So
war.
my question is that going to happen within Tesla, or is that going to happen within X?
Okay, so that is a question I've been asking for the last 2 months. And when I had my Dave Lee interview, I was asking him this question because in my mind, I'm guaranteed that AI, Tesla is going to beat in auto, that Tesla is going to win in energy, but I didn't know about bots and whether or not ChatGPT can win in bots. And that was my concern. Is that might happen, but these guys basically told me no, that's not going to happen. You can basically address that.
Yeah. No, I love those answers, Herbert, and we'll get Jeff's opinion. But I think the challenge for Tesla with the AI is very small percentage of the population has a Tesla, right? To try the car and the FSD, where anybody could just go on for free and do bard.com and play with the Google AI for free all day and could find that it is amazing. It could go like I'm literally going into there and I'm saying in 1962, tell me who had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And it literally will give me a detailed paragraph on what the game was, kind of how it ended. It's phenomenal. It's only going to get better. So I agree with you. Long term, Tesla bot for me is like the real thing because it's the assistant, right? It's not just a verbal coming back at you, right? It's an actual assistant that has its own mind of its own, within reason to help you. So I agree. And I agree with Alexandra. I want to get Jeff's point of this. How do they make money, right? We saw crypto. I think crypto is on its last legs, right? I know Bitcoin may be, the gold, but I really don't get a lot of Ethereum. No one's using it anymore. Like, is Web3 over? And when we look at AI, I agree it has longer power, but it needs to make money at some point. The hype will fade. And when I think about a Google Bard or Microsoft with OpenAI, I understand how Tesla makes money, but how do these companies make money off the AI? Are they going to charge for Bard? Yeah, go ahead.
And I give it to Jeff right after. Their plan is that the Yelps of this world, the restaurants of this world, or whatever, pay to be referenced in the response, right? The same way they now are on Google paying to be on the top of search engine optimization or have the ads in, they will be incorporated in the ChatGPT answers. And they may be labeled ads or not, I have no idea yet, but it's the corporations for being named that are going to pay to get in them. And I guess that is a valid business model. I just think for somebody like Google, they're losing the revenue on the Google ads, on the classical ads, and they're going to win it on the bot side. But I don't think a company is going to pay double.
Can I answer that? I'm sorry, Jeff. We're jumping over you. Guys, you have to open up your mind, right? There's so many things that they're going to be able to make money off. As we already know, that there's like lists of different jobs that are being eliminated. You can become a lawyer now. ChatGPT can replace your lawyer. So they will now hire ChatGPT for law firm. Copywriting. Like there's a whole list. Every job will be replaced. And so, what do you guys mean that this is not advertising anymore?
But there's a good, go ahead, Alexander.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Who will pay? So let's say I want the lawyer function, which I do in my job. I do, and I use ChatGPT. But at the moment, everything is, I pay the $20 per month for having Jet 4. But that's not a lot of money for the usage I get out of it. I don't see how they're making huge amounts of money out of this.
No, that right now it is $20 a month for you to play with it, and they're using that for you to be accustomed to it. Free on Bard. But once you start wanting to do a legal review of some document, they can charge you $1,000 for that, and then you can go and do that, right? They have limited functionality just to give you that taste.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Jeff. There's going to be really endless things from labor, but nearer term, these things are going to create their own app stores and plugins. It's already happening, and those plugins are going to pay for that relationship, and it's just going to, just like the app store and the development of that, you're going to have that for AI. it spans from labor, it spans from app ecosystems, it spans just, I mean, it's kind of an endless list. You're really in the kind of the nascent early innings of this. This is just the beginning. I mean, it's going to continue to accelerate from here. So it's hard to describe. I mean, it feels like it's going to be endless. But near term, you're going to see these plugins where there's a travel application or whatever, are going to want to get connected with these AI results, and they're going to pay for that, as Alexandra said, and from an ads perspective as well. But I think we're getting a little bit further. I mean, I think from a Tesla perspective, I think one of the things that there's confusion in the fintech community. There's confusion maybe in the analyst community of like, I saw that interview with Gary and Ross and Phil LeBeau and CNBC, and Phil was like, when is it going to be level 5? When is it going to be level 5? Well, it's going to make a lot of money before level 5 of people that just want to get in their car and speak a destination and the car drives them. It's going to make a lot of money. And I actually think the data that's out there is I mean, I don't know what the term to use. It's incorrect. There are over 400,000 people that have signed up for it, FSD beta in the United States, and there's probably less than 2 million, capable cars. So I think the number is a lot higher in terms of interest than what's being advertised, and this is easily provable too.
No, I agree with you, and I want to add one more sector while we're talking about finance. I touched on that a little bit, I think, 2 weeks ago. If Tesla manages to be recognized as an AI company, which it is, I mean, it is as much an AI company as a car, we would get out of that cluster of consumer discretionary, right? And we would move over to tech. That is huge. Don't underestimate it. I really would have to go down the rabbit hole, but that would mean that so many other funds that are currently tech orientated and have to have their 1% allocation of this and 2% allocation of that would have to purchase Tesla, which they currently don't because it's in the other sector. So we're not just talking about, is it AI or is it not? But if it is AI, it would move, and that would be a real big catalyst for Tesla stock.
Yeah, just think about it. It's AI, and
Enormous.
It's a secular growing EV company that has the supply, that has the portfolio of products, and actually has the track record of delivering. So you put that together and see, EVs are growing, anywhere from 30 to 50%, year on year. And then you say also there's this AI effort that's supercharging it, and it's in real life. It's people have subscribed to it, people are buying it, and it's actually saving lives. It's right now it's on paper 6 times safer than human driving. I mean, where's the top on that?
Yeah.
So Alexandra, earlier you asked the question, is it going to happen in Truth GPT or within Tesla? And that's why I got very excited when the shareholder meeting, and he said, it ain't so. I'm not stepping out as CEO. I'm not going anywhere. He says, I think Tesla is going to play an important role in AI and AGI.
Oh, good.
And I want to oversee that to make sure. Generally, people, even the AI community, do not appreciate just how much capability Tesla has in AI. It is by far the most advanced real-world AI. Reality has the most degrees of freedom. Reality has the most degrees of freedom. So when he said that, that was the thing, man. It made me feel comfortable that he wasn't going to do AI in Truth GPT. He's doing it in Tesla. I think the reason he's doing Tesla is because Tesla's doing the bots. And I'm telling you that I got a little worried that could you just take an advanced chat GPT, you take a large language model, this technology, this AI that can understand the world, the context in the world, put it in a bot body, and then be able to then understand what it's looking at. That's a fridge. That is a Coke can. I'm going to now grab it, and it's going to teach itself how to move the body that it happens to be in because it's a self-learning system. But can ChatGPT become that before real world reality has the most degrees of freedom? Get there first. And I feel much better because there was an interview with the chief technology officer at OpenAI. And he said that we had the opportunity to make a decision of whether or not we were going to get into bots. And we decided not to because in order to do that, you would need to have a huge commitment, and it needs to be tens of thousands of bots in order to get the data to learn how to do this. And now they're investing in bot companies though. So they are investing in other companies to do the work of creating it. And then now it's a race. So for
is there
Elon,
is there any bot out there? I'm not knowledgeable about bots at all, but is there any bot out there other than the Tesla bot who is going by vision? Aren't they all going by programming or whatever?
Right.
There's not,
Yeah,
right?
no, you're correct. As far as I'm aware, there's no other company that has, they're two separate things, right? There's the bot hardware, and then there is the intelligent brain, and no company is doing the intelligent brain except for Tesla that can do both. The problem is that you can just take something like, this large language model and try to apply it to that.
Well,
And that part,
you're gonna
Google DeepMind has demoed it at this big, it's a 60 Minutes episode that they just did a month ago. And they did that because they wanted to show the world, hey, we've been working on this too. But it looked very much like a lab. It looked like that, but you can't count them out. But you've got DeepMind and those kind of things being now applied to learning, self-learning, and just being able to see what's happening. Yeah.
So call me crazy, but there were a couple of tweets, but middle of last week by Mark Cuban, who is no Elon friend, right? Let's just make it very clear. And who stated that people underestimate that the purchase of Twitter will actually give Elon enormous data in terms of communication and language, how people interact, how they do, and that he can actually use that for bots and for his Truth GPT and for any language model he's going to build. And that reminded me of Elon saying, don't worry, Tesla shareholders, but there will come the moment that you will benefit from the Twitter purchase. And I do believe there is something to it, because as with FSD, where you need enormous data to finally get to the point that FSD is comfortable and has most of the cases pre-understood and reactions programmed. The same will happen with language, right? And if you have this enormous discussion base that Twitter is every day, which on top of it, by pure coincidence, is limited to it's 140, 280 characters and some longer ones now, right? If you pay, which is actually ideal because it obliges your users to be precise what they want to say. And if you can use these interactions and these communications when you go Truth GPT, robots, interaction, language model building, or whatever, he's sitting on the biggest chase ever, right?
I agree. I want to ask a question to you guys, because I think this is the one risk to AI. And again, this is just me putting my little investor hat on again. I think AI is coming, and the Googles of the world, the Microsofts of the world, whatever Apple wants to do, Tesla, I think Tesla has, at the end of the day, will be the biggest winner with the hardware, and the software, and put it together, and they got multiple avenues to go with it. But let's talk about regulation, because we do live in a world, right, where we have governments and we have politicians and we have people that have jobs like accountants. I could see easily displaced, lawyers, truck drivers. What do you think governments will do when this stuff comes and it starts hitting them in the face? Because they're always late to react, but people vote and people want jobs, right? And if this AI comes and it's going to maybe really disrupt huge millions of people's welfare, their living standards, literally putting food on the table. Do you think this is a risk on all of these things for government? Government getting involved, or you think they're just going to let it go and people will have to kind of fend for themselves? Maybe a minimum basic wage like Elon talks about.
Exactly. I thought this through 15 months ago, and I'm rather on the conservative political spectrum than into the welfare sector. Bots will increase the gross domestic product by so much more that we will actually be in a much richer state. So it will allow states to actually, we will be much less dependent on imports from China or the rest of the world. And I think America really wants to be on the leading edge here. And by the production created from these bots, the states will be richer just because there's going to be so much more production, so much less import, so much less need for products bought cheaply somewhere else. And that will increase healthcare, that will increase comfort level, that will increase quality of schools, that will actually allow people, and I'm not dreaming here, and I wrote this about 15 months ago, I wrote a whole article about it, it will increase and focus people on doing what they do best. Educate their children, make music, do things that humans do better than any other creature on the world. And I do believe that's where we could get to if we manage this peacefully. And that's why we need certain number of regulations. But I don't think politicians will step in to protect minimum wage or to protect jobs, because that you nailed it, Christian. They'll be late. The movement is done. Truck drivers at $80,000 a year, yes, well paid, but having a crap life, right? They will not, that's not the way this will function in 15, 20 years. We're on the brink of something that is really changing. Sometimes I pinch myself and I tell myself, you're going too big when you think about it, but there is no too big. There is no too big. If this works, and if these robots do what humans shouldn't do, work for the man, this could become really beautiful.
Yeah. It's kind of scary, though, like Elon talks about. Very scary. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, in 10 seconds, and just think of the implications on healthcare, just real-time monitoring and being able to take all these different variables, which were once in your doctor's head, that are now, going to be, uploaded, analyzed, and you kind of giving you real-time information on what should happen to you from a medical perspective in order to lengthen your life or give you a better quality of life. So the possibilities are endless. I think, to answer your question, I think they're going to, from a regulation perspective, they have to start with safety. And I think all the participants are actually kind of willfully asking for this. And just like, if you think of, the FAA, or you think of other regulation bodies, that they do good, but they still kind of permit and allow for innovation. So it's one of those things where it's one thing to have a regulatory framework. That's another thing for it to be spiraling out of control and so big that you can't make any progress. So maybe AI will control that. We'll see. But
I agree
for
with
now,
you.
I think it's an approach to safety.
Yeah, and no bad actor. That's the one. No big bad actor, because it would take one to just ruin the whole system. You can build this up. You can build up this whole ecosystem perfectly, and lots of people, every people will win. Or you can have some bad actors in there, and then that could crush the whole idea.
Yeah, I think there's white collar bots and there's blue collar bots. Okay, the white collar bots are the large language model ChatGPT that's going to replace copywriters and lawyers and doctors. And then there's the blue collar bots, which is going to do the manufacturing and reducing our cost of products. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is there's going to be a kind of a choppy way to get this ideal world where it's going to be very abundant. We're going to be very rich as a country. We're going to be able to give people money to survive, but on the way there, it's too late. Copywriters are losing their jobs right now, right? Webmasters, you can even people creating movies might start losing some jobs. You'd be shocked to learn what these technologies can do at this point. And so it's going to be choppy on the way. But since we're talking about regulation, let's hear what you guys think in the current environment with the macro. What is happening right now? The big discussion is the debt ceiling. Christian, do you want to give us an update on what you're thinking might happen there?
Yeah. So, I follow this stuff. I love to merge politics with finance. And the debt ceiling is one of those things where, I'll just give a quick synopsis of my thoughts on where we kind of been. The United States of America is a great country, but, we've been year after year just piling now the debt. We have over $30 trillion in debt. That is not a small number, 30 trillion with a T. And each year, just like you balance your budget, you make so much a year of an income and you spend so much, right? So we're bringing in income, say 4 trillion. I might not be exactly with the numbers, and we're spending, 5.5, 6 trillion, say. So we're deficit of a trillion to 2 trillion every year. So 31 trillion becomes 33 trillion, and we kick that can. We raise the debt ceiling. So we'll issue more debt. That's the first thing they're going to do is issue more treasury because they have no money. There's like 50 billion in the Treasury general account. There is no money. The government has no money. They only collect money through us taxpayers, or they got to print it. So this is what I was talking about a little bit before, like in some of my tweets. Like, if we don't get this problem under control, it's going to be on our kids, because what will happen is, as the debt keeps going and going and going, 40 trillion, it's going to crowd out what we need to do for investment in our country. People that have paid into Social Security, Medicare, defense spending, food stamps, all the things that people need, that they're used to, all these little programs too. It's like the interest on that debt will become so much part of the budget that it's going to crowd out a lot of that stuff, which could lead to a lower standing of living for Americans in the future. Now, you could say, well, it's going to be hard because the Republicans don't want to raise taxes and the Democrats don't want to cut spending. But something somewhere has to be done, because this is unsustainable. Because from an economic point of view, I'll drive this home. What happens is, when we issue debt, we need people to buy our debt. If they see 40 trillion in debt eventually, 50 trillion in debt, 5-10 years down the road, they're going to be less likely to loan us money, because they're going to say one of two things. Your debt, the debt you have compared to what you're bringing in economic revenue, is now getting so it's just like someone making $100,000 a year and they got $2 million in debt. That's a bad formula, right? So you're digging yourself a hole. And what will happen is these countries or individuals will say, I'm not going to lend you money, Mr. Government. I need a better rate, because I think you're a bigger risk now, because you might just print the money to give it back to me. And when the government prints the money, what's the problem we've been facing? Inflation. If they just start printing trillions of dollars to pay off debts, that's trillions of dollars flying again across the globe again, and dollars become less valuable and things become more expensive, because there's more dollars chasing fewer goods. And with less people working, and if we do go into recession, that only really manifests itself, because now we have a slower economy, slower tax revenues coming in, and this is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm really passionate on this thing. I don't know how it gets done. I know it's difficult. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but at some point, some tough decisions have to be made, because you cannot just keep kicking this can down the road and we come back a year or two from now and we have the same thing, another debt ceiling debacle, where we go to the last hour, we have like 10 billion left in the account, and then we raise it, we issue the debt, and we keep going. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this, but this is a big issue. This is a real big issue.
I don't think this is the year. Go ahead, Trev. Go ahead.
Oh, please go ahead.
I don't think this is the year where they're doing anything else than kicking the can down the road, just because it's not an election year. None of the parties involved have a reason to escalate this now. They will in a year. I followed the one, I think there was one in 2011, 2013, 2017, then we had COVID, now we have 2023, right? So this is a recurring subject. They always end up agreeing, but not decreasing the debt, right? We're now at, like you said, at 33 trillion. Do know other countries are in much worse shape. For example, in France, half of the budget of France is to pay interest on their debt, 50%, right? This is crazy. So, and that brings all the other problems that France is living today. That's why the average salary in France is only 1,600 euros, just because, there's just nothing is growing anymore. And that's a completely other subject. But anyway, to get back to the United States, I do believe there will be a solution. I think there's just no other reason for them to currently really work on a permanent solution. So I think they're either going to go for a short extension, a couple of weeks, short month, and then find a new debt ceiling. But I don't think they will start reducing. Actually, the last time, if I remember right, there was a reduction was when it was Bill Clinton, the president, and who was Speaker of the House? Oh, Newt Gingrich. And then the Republicans forced the hand of Clinton, who was, for that, I have to say, a comprehensive president who understood that there was a need to come to a solution. I doubt that very much with the current administration. I don't see the Biden administration really motivated in being known for being conservative on that issues. Jeff, I hand it to you.
Yeah, no, thanks. I think this is going to go to the brink. I mean, the upside surprise would be is they reach some sort of understanding this week, but then remember it, McCarthy wants to give his team 72 hours to understand and read, the agreement, and then it's got to go through, both Congress, Congress and the Senate. So, to the president. So, I think this is going to go to the brink. They kind of keep the end date sketchy. They said, June 1st. You have people reporting on, treasury balances real time and kind of like scaring and shocking people. So, but I believe it's going to go to the brink, but they'll figure it out. But the question is, what are the decisions that are being made, and what do they mean to voters, and I think it's becoming highly, even it's always a politicized conversation, and the closer that we get to the 2024 election, it just really puts it on steroids, and that's what's happening now. So it's really interesting for me to understand, like, do they actually, does McCarthy understand, like, does he have the votes? For as these things move around, it's just fascinating to me. Like, does he understand? Does he actually have, the votes or not? So this is going to play. It's going to be a drama every single day. There'll be breaking news every day. If they break 5 minutes early from a conversation, it will be breaking news. So we're gonna have to see. The question is usually there's a tremendous amount of, presidential leadership that is needed in this situation. And it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. I'm glad that he cut his trip short to kind of come back and deal with this. And it'll be interesting to see.
Should never went.
Yeah. And that could be a conversation as well. And the question is does he have? He's always kind of been known in the past as kind of the person to go in and make the deal. If you remember the 2008 financial crisis, he was behind the scenes doing the bailout deal.
He did, and 2011, the same, when they had exactly the same situation. He was the broker doing it. So, but I mean, we're 12 years later, right? And I just doubt the capacities. But I want to just add one thing, please. So, yes, I think in a week we're over this. But the ones that really give me a stomachache, and I had Monday a space with Gary on that, is the Fed. Gary is very confident that the Fed is now going to pause, and then by the end of the year, lower rates, and next year as well. I found the Fed, and I looked into that last week just because I had some time. I found them so erratic. I found them, they've made mistake over mistakes since 2021, right? One after the other, too late and too steep, language not appropriate. And you just fear every press conference, wondering, what they're going to come up. And I think while everybody is staring now at these debt discussions, the real elephant in the room is the Fed. The Fed can make one more wrong decision, and it will just be one more, right? We've had a series, and that's going to be much more detrimental than all these discussions. Not that I find our debt situation good. I just don't think anybody will solve it really this year. It's just a matter of now getting it over with. While the Fed situation is really something I wish somebody would address and tell them to get their act together.
Yeah, I agree, guys. And I think this is a great discussion. So I think we should kind of go here a little bit more. But this is part of the problem, right? I know they're going to do it. They're not going to default. If they default, that is a disaster scenario. There's so many things. You don't have to really. There's so many things that'll go wrong after that, I believe. Now, you don't want to try it, but they won't default. But here's the problem. They're going to kick the can again. And then when we come to 24, nothing's going to get solved either because, and I'm not going to make this political. I'm looking at this from an economical way. If we get a Republican candidate, say like Trump, I'm just using him. He's not a big cutter of spending too. He's actually a spending. He's a spender. I'm just using an example. He's a spender. Yes, the Democrats are spender. No one wants to take the political bite to try to tackle this problem and make any cuts because they're going to lose votes. So this is the problem. And then eventually you become a banana republic. You don't become a great power. all the great powers in the past. I know I'm thinking out like you guys are just looking at for this year, next year. I'm looking 10, 20 years down the road. Every great power, and the United States has been the great power. England was a great power. They blew themselves up because they got fat and happy, and they ran debts, and they thought that it would never end. Well, at some point, when we run these debts and these deficits, the dollar becomes less worth. And if the countries, and it's already started, the de-dollarization, if other countries look at us and say they're just going to print their way out of it and just print dollars to pay off trillions of dollars of debt because we can't control ourselves, there will be, no one knows the exact moment. That's what I'm trying to get to. There will be a moment where things happen and it will be a cataclysmic shift, and America will not be the power it was due to our lack of fiscal discipline. I'm using broad strokes here, but I'm worried about that.
Except if there's the bot.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to me.
Tesla solves it all.
Well, no, I think one of the problems that put us in this situation was the globalization of manufacturing. If we were to be able to build more stuff and export it, we would have less of a deficit problem in this country.
But why was that, Jeff? Corporations did that because they had cheap labor, and corporations made a lot more money than employing Americans at higher wages to do it. So it was And
a lot of countries have protectionist policies that disallow that, and they've been running those protectionist policies actually for decades. And the U.S. really hasn't. You could do it. It was a wild west. Right. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah. And we can go to the roots of that, and it's lobbying again. I mean, that's the whole thing, right?
But I think this is making a kind of a 180, and it is coming around. It's going to take a bit, but to me, it comes down to if we could export AI and all the AI tools, if we can maintain the lead that we have on AI, and then if we could become a manufacturing base for that next generation technology, whether it's smaller nodes on silicon, whether it's, you name it, whether it's AI related manufacturing, if we can become that export hub, then we kind of turn this around. But I think, I mean, we're tackling a pretty broad issue.
I have to share something with you that I actually didn't think I would do. I got a cup from Connecting the Dots. You probably know him. And it says, make Twitter great again.
No, I love that. And I'll give it to you, Herbert, but I just want to say, you guys made me think. So I'm thinking about these fiscal things, and you're saying AI could be a big driver in help with these issues. So that's something I didn't think of. So yeah, I appreciate that. Go ahead.
I mean, listen, the whole story of economy and what's happening to the society, it's all about technology. And as technology continues to improve every year, then, every GDP gets better, everything gets, this is what you have to count on, right? That it keeps moving. The issue is, it's the reason why it's different this time is that AI is a different animal. AI is going to get rid of a lot of jobs. Now you can say to me, well, that's the same thing that people said when we used to have people making horsewhips. Now they don't do that, but they're doing other jobs. That's true for different technology leaps. This one is different. This one's going to eliminate all jobs.
Sure.
And both, like I said, white collar jobs and blue collar jobs. And so, so it's going to be great for the society. So I'm an optimist. I'm a person who's like thinking that this future is going to be bright.
What will we do, Herbert? What will we do if everything is done for us? Yeah,
I'm scared. I'm absolutely scared because I know Alexander, you've said. I know, Alexander, you've said that, we're going to be able to play music and all that. Actually, we won't because AI can do better music than we can. They can draw better painting than we can. So in the past, I used to think, oh, yeah, they'll do the hard work and I'm going to be able to do my passions. But actually, may not be able to do these videos anymore because why would you watch a YouTube video when you can get the best, concise information updates?
So
you wonder, what are you going to do? I don't know. It's a real question that I'm getting afraid of.
Because non-idle hands can be very dangerous.
Yes, agreed.
But will it eliminate politicians? I think that's the question. Oh, by the way,
somebody told me. Somebody told me
that's the ultimate goal, right? But for those debt ceilings,
that's the one that you can't get rid of is politicians.
Always, yeah. For those debt ceilings, the one thing they should start with is if we can't pay the first pay to cut should be the salaries of all Congress. Believe me, we won't have any issues.
They're going to be
I
the
love what
first
you
to
guys are
dip
saying.
in.
I love what you're saying, Herbert. I'm a little less bullish on the AI revolution with governments, because what do governments love to do? They love to control. If nobody needs to work anymore, and essentially everything, how are they going to get, like, are they just, are governments going to allow robots to take over the world? Because guess what? Like you said, their power goes to zero. There is no more power.
Yeah, it's too late. But the good news is that's why I'm invested in Tesla. So if the very least, you have to pick a company that, if this future unrolls the way we're saying it is, you need to be in a company that's going to take advantage of that. And if Tesla becomes an AI company that Elon recognizes he needs to catch up to OpenAI, and people are telling me that OpenAI does not have that big of a lead as I was thinking it did. Okay. And I kept saying that just 2 months ahead is enough. But the reality is, apparently, James Dalman and other very intelligent people who understand this says this is a lot of the things that they use to build that is open source. And so you can see all these other companies taking what they built and building faster and being better. And so Tesla can definitely catch up. But the bots, even if these other companies create the brains for it and Tesla's brains aren't as good, they will have the scale of creating massive numbers of bots. They'll partner with those guys and we'll still make a ton of money. And so that's why I need to be in a company that's gonna give me a little bit of assurance that in the future, who's going to be left standing? Who's going to be left standing? Which company?
What's going to win in the end?
Well sure.
What's going to win in the end, if you think about it, is the vertical integration of Tesla. Is there one company right now in any index in the world that is designing silicon, that is doing system integration to make and produce products, that makes and produce the software, that also has the social media platform connected to it? Is there one company that has all of those things connected together? Not to mention the aeronautical, space piece of it as well. But is there one kind of conglomerate of companies that is connected together that is anywhere close to that capability? The answer is no.
No,
I want to make another point.
Tesla and like the Chinese government, like the whole Chinese government with their, hardware, with the EV and their batteries, like, but it's a whole country, right? But yeah, Tesla as a company is like on that kind of level. So that's a great point.
But they're not an integrated. They're not.
Right.
I think you bring up a good point, Christian. But there's a difference between being disaggregated and being an integrated unit that's actually working together. I think from a cycle time perspective and the quality of work, and like these things actually working together seamlessly, you're going to get it when it's kind of one company working together. And that's why when I look at this AI race and I look at like the hardware, that the silicon that NVIDIA is doing, I look at the silicon that Tesla is doing, for example, but I look at it and I look at the integration piece and the model, it's going to take them longer. And the question is it going to work as well? It's hard to say. So it's just an interesting way to. When Tesla went into silicon, it was really convincing for me.
I agree with you. And that's a discussion I had with Gary on Monday, when he said, you'll see whether it was a seat belt or automatic transmission or whatever, whenever something happens in the car market, everybody else copies it straight away. I said, this is not a thing you can copy.
It's not the same thing.
You can't just, say now, okay, they're doing that now. Maybe Mobileye has another solution, but if I got it right, Mobileye's solution is $10,000. So you think anybody's going to purchase for $10,000 Mobileye's solution just to have a competitor in each car to Tesla, which are all pre-equipped? I mean, except for the ones that are very much older. I really do believe that the gap between Tesla and anybody else in the car industry is just getting wider and wider and wider. And in the vision AI, I don't see anybody. I'm most happy to learn that there is somebody, but at the moment, I don't see anybody.
Yeah, there's a reason that there's one company that's making $55 billion a quarter selling a smartphone, just the smartphone alone. There's one company. And then there's 15 other companies that sell a lot of smartphones. Most of the smartphones sold today are Android. In fact, if the number's at 1.2 billion a year, 1 billion of them are, the other operating platform. but there's a reason why all the profits are in one area, and that's how that device works together from a
my
vertical
thinking
integration.
has been evolving over the last month or so, that as I've been thinking about this, that, you know, everybody, me included, was always thinking that the future is about digital intelligence, creating things that are, you know, your added input of your intelligence is going to be what succeeds. But actually, AI is going to take that all. So what does that leave me? Well, I'm thinking now, if I was to start a business today, I'm actually going to recommend to people, you should do something that is physical. People need to eat. They need to buy clothes. They'll need to buy cars, you know, physical things. And AI is not going to replace that. Bots could, but that's the business you need to get into. People will still need to eat. If you are trying to be a lawyer, at this point, it's like questionable if you're going to be able to beat AI lawyers. You know what I mean? Like it can't be just the brain anymore. It's got to be physical products. And so that's why it's interesting that Tesla, being so 100, almost 90% physical, you know, it's important. Who's going to win in auto? Well, right? It's Tesla's going to win that. That's straightforward. AI is not going to beat that unless it's robotaxi. So whoever comes up with first robotaxi, that matters. And then the bots, who can make those bots, who can make those energy megapack batteries. I know there's going to be lots of competitors to that, but you know, can you compete in that, participate in that market? So we're going to win these markets, and then anything else, if you're not in a physical manufacturing capability, and Tesla, that's what they are, factories making things. So they can make a bunch of things and sell it, and that's, you'll always still need that, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hard to get rid of electricians. So trade school, right? Everyone wants to go to a 8 year of college. Back in the day, those things might not be as beneficial anymore. Taking hundreds of thousands of student loans on, it might be better to be an electrician, be a plumber in the short term, because you're still going to need those things, and people will pay up because they don't know how to do anything anymore. I don't know how to do much. I have to pay everybody to do things. So I think those jobs are still going to be in demand. You know, those blue collar
Maintenance.
jobs. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Great point.
No, I think it was a
Okay.
great talk, Herbert. Did you have any left, or you want to wrap up?
Yeah, well, let's come back to Tesla. So we talked about the kind of you know, the change of Tesla to being an AI. Spent a lot of time on that. We talked about the debt ceiling and the economy.
Yeah.
Let's get back to what you guys are thinking short term. Tesla's narrative, has Tesla's narrative changed? Is it for the long term, or is it just a short term blip that this could flip all of a sudden? And then what are you guys thinking about Q2 production delivery and just any catalyst that you're expecting?
I'll go real quick. So I think Q2, I've been just going on a rough estimate. So I think they're going to basically do about 5% more than they did in Q1. So that would put them around that 442. I'm just using that as a number. That's where I am on the quarter. So growth, but not, you know, crazy growth. I think we just saw, they talked about another ship going to Canada. Again, not a bad thing. It just means whatever they're doing. Obviously, if the, I'm just makes sense to me. And Jeff, you could tell me I'm an idiot. If the demand was in China, wouldn't you want to send those cars into the domestic China market, because it would be less cost of travel to send to Canada? So that's where I'm kind of understanding in the very, very short term. I understand Tesla long term, the AI, but I'm just like Herbert said, getting into the quarter. Do you think that first of all, what would your number be in Alexandria? And talk me through that a little bit. Why go to Canada? Why not Europe again? I understand Berlin's ramping, but I'm sure they could still go into one of those countries' markets, whether it be Italy, you know, wherever. Or am I thinking about that wrong? Why it's not going into China and they're exporting more? Like, just talk me through that a little bit. I would love to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, ask me. A couple of things.
Yeah.
One is the cost for a container went from about $18,000 to $21,000 at peak during COVID. It's now $1,250, I think. So that's one thing to just keep in mind. The other thing is, you know, what's happening in the U.S. is it's a little bit nonlinear. They're ramping the Model Y in Texas, and one of the inputs to ramping that product is the 4680. So one of the scenarios that could be happening is they're running into supply shortages in the U.S. of batteries. And one of the ways to deal with that in North America, if the U.S. has to produce for the U.S. and Canada,
I understand.
one of the ways to deal with some of that issue is to import from China.
I got
The other thing that's happening in China is there's this whole regulatory thing that's happening with gas powered cars, and they've been put on fire sale between now and July. We don't know if they're going to move this date or not, this date where they're going to basically start sunsetting sales of gas powered vehicles. But that is probably causing, they're taking massive price reductions on ICE vehicles in China, and that may be causing a significant jump in ICE vehicle sales in China. So there's a number of things that could be happening. We're not 100% sure. But I'll tell you, all the kind of people that count cars, like all of their data points seem to be pointing in a positive and favorable direction. So we'll just have to see how it, but there's a number of reasons why that could, that situation in Canada could be happening. And we just have to wait and see.
No, I appreciate that. That made sense. Yeah. Thank you.
And I agree with both of you. And I mean, I'm still closer to 2 million for this year, just because I'm the eternal optimist. But and don't forget that James is about 515, right? Is something like that. I mean, he's like really up there.
That's way up.
But exactly. But I do believe most people are now somewhere between 440 and 450. For this quarter, I just think, if I look at past episodes we did, these short-term logistic issues, like at the moment Germany sells a bit less, so they bring more to France or to Spain or to what do I know? It's just always short-term, and Tesla seems to be very clever on being able to take advantage of it. Now, I do know currently in the northeast of the United States, the Model Y seems to be unfindable, right? There are so many people complaining to me in my DMs going, oh my God, I had my credit union blocked and I have to start again. It's going to ruin my credit score because I had another hard inquiry and all that because there's no car. And fair enough. It takes 3-4 weeks more to get your car. I mean, cars are not something you can just zap somewhere, right? You just have to get them there and make sure your logistics are right. I do believe Tesla is doing a fairly good job on it. The other thing is Elon really seems to be convinced, and I know that we've heard this for too many years for people to still believe it, but if full self-drive is close to being solved, not robotaxis yet, but full self-drive, I do believe there's going to be a Tesla fleet sooner or later. Right. And then if that is the case, well, then that's it. We don't have inventory issues anymore or anything. There will be Tesla fleets out there for rent for, initial Uber people, rather than getting them from Hertz, getting them from Tesla directly. And then that will just take care of all of these issues.
Yeah. So again, I think very differently, it seems like, than you guys. There's no doubt in my mind Tesla's going to hit 1.8 to 2 million cars in a year. Why? Because they have the factories to build it. They're going to sell those cars. They can produce them. They'll sell them. They have to lower the prices. They're going to sell them. That is their stated goal. Higher scale of until you can get Giga Berlin and Giga Texas to 80% capacity, you're going to create those cars. They won't have an issue with that. The only caveat to all of this is the 4680 scale of that, right? There's been struggling to create that, and I think that they're likely stockpiling it for the CyberTruck, and then this could be disruptive. So that's the only reason why they might not get to the 1.8, but I think that they're going to move heaven and earth to do that. The other thing is I do feel pretty strongly that there's going to be a Model 3 Highland that's going to come out, that's going to be boosting sales of those kind of cars in the second half of this year. So that is not going to be the issue. And then the concern about price cuts and margins, I don't care, right? That's not as big of a deal to me. What matters is hit your sales volumes. And he's already stated that that's what they're going to do. So I don't have an issue. I think that this quarter, it could be very much at 450. I'm not going to jump up and say it's 500,000, but certainly Q3, Q4, we're going to start seeing that number go to 500,000 and up. And so this is, again, like Alexandra said, if you look backwards, there's nothing wrong with what this company's doing in terms of hitting the numbers that we're expecting it to hit, maybe a little bit lower than what they themselves have said. But at the end of the day, we're growing. This company's growing. I did a space this morning and I reminded people what has happened in the last year. All the gigafactories, megapack factories, lithium refineries that's been launched. Just wait another year, 2 years. They're going to announce more. I think just in another episode that Elon was on, he announced that there's going to be another gigafactory announced this year. So these things will produce cars. They're going to sell cars. So,
I agree
we're
with
talking
you,
about miners.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was actually a little bit ticked off with that story that I think it was at that Wall Street Journal symposium opening that he will announce, or Tesla will announce another gigafactory by the end of the year. I mean, that seems really late for me, right? We heard actually last year that by the end of 2022, we would have 2 new announcements. None of them came. Then we had early 2023 Mexico. Now it's already late here. So I do have the feeling it all got a little bit, delayed, or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, they could definitely have delayed it because of the macro. They had to, and they had difficulty 4 to 680s. And so they wanted to make sure that these factories, but I'm not concerned because the megapack factories are being announced. The gigafactories are being expanded with the unboxing process that's going to happen in Mexico. You're basically scaling up even the same square footage. So these improvements that they're making within their own factories are happening. And so to me, it's like, do you have to announce yet another net new factory for you to feel good? Or just the fact that your own factories, you already announced, already scaling, they're expanding it. And then for them to reduce the square footage required to produce even double the number of cars, that to me, it's like as if you announce another new factory, right?
Well, every factory,
with,
factory added square footage, massive square footage. Nevada, Shanghai is going to, obviously they're going to add a separate megapack factory, but they're also going to increase the square footage to build motors, inverters to take that up another, 30 to 40%. So there have actually been a number of rolling announcements that have occurred that do nothing but expand capacity. But I like the fact that Herbert called that point out. They're redefining output per square meter with this next generation car. So that first phase of Texas, that's 500K a year, I believe will be 1 million units a year in a couple of years out of that same square footage. So it's going to be a nonlinear thing that happens actually.
And I got to call you out here, Herbert, a little bit, a friendly call out. I was saying they should do it this way. They did Mexico. Now they're going to, at the end of the year, do another one. I remember you were talking, no, I think what they're going to do is they're going to announce 3 or 4 or 5 all at once. And I know you changed, but you were thinking more that way. And I don't think they're going to do that. That's a lot of strain on a company. We saw how hard it was to ramp just Berlin and Texas at the same time, how long that took and the manpower. I think doing it this strategy, do Mexico, get Mexico going, start building that. Like they should start building that soon this summer, and then do another one for 20. Then you don't stretch your company out too thin because you're still ramping Berlin. So I agree with you. I think Tesla's on track, and maybe they are a little delayed, but that's okay. They'll get there in the long run. I like this strategy better than announcing 5 locations and we're going to all do it. I don't like that strategy. So go ahead, you can comment.
The only comment I'll make to that is that and what they've done is redefined a factory. It's like a product, and now there's a Gen 2 factory that they created, the Mexico version of the unboxing process. And you've already heard Tom Ju say that once we build this, we're going to replicate this and make it go faster and faster and faster. So the reason they stopped building, they re-step back, they redesigned the whole factory. This is going to be the first one. And then, Christian, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, they're going to have 3 of them announced at the same year. This is going to be like a product. They're going to be able to scale these things up fast, but they needed to wait until the whole new redesign has been thought through.
You gave me a good idea. Will they sell that product to other companies? Hey, we want your next gen factory. How much will it cost us? And Elon with the mission saying, yeah, we will do that for you to get the system, right? Is that possible?
I think so. I think absolutely possible. The factory is the product. You're going to sell the factory to other companies. I mean, if it's powered by bots, it's like so proficient. Why not, right? The companies will pay.
I mean,
them.
I don't think Tesla can do it alone. I mean, if Elon's goal is sustainable, like he said, there's no way that Tesla is going to make every car. It's no way they're going to put every stationary storage product in. It's just not. Is it? Am I thinking about that? It's not feasible, right? They need other people to do that. Like Tesla would be so big, they would, have like 20 million employees. Like it's not possible, I don't think.
No,
so they need to bring other people on. Yeah.
They said so on Investor Day. And also don't forget, I mean, there are people leaving Tesla from time to time. We had the person who was in charge of overseeing the build out of Giga Berlin, who was made redundant. I mean, these are people that, believe me, the rest of the industry is very happy to hire and learn from. I mean, this is a competitive market. It's not as if Tesla is the only one. There are employees leaving from time to time Tesla, and they take some of the knowledge with them.
Yep, all the time. No, it was awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great
stuff.
show, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We covered a lot: the economy,
Yeah.
the debt ceiling. We went back to Tesla, and I do think that the narrative has changed. Right? We all agree
I think
that
so.
it's
yeah,
a
I
big
think
deal.
the sentiment
it's
is
going
better.
from
But again,
it's changing. Yeah, it's changing for me because it used to be Tesla was what's the quarter delivery going to be, what's the number, and what's the margin. Now that's still important, but it's becoming less of that. It's becoming more of okay, as long as they can grow units and margins don't fall off go negative, and they got the bot coming and FSD is getting better. Yeah, so I think it is switching, but I still think just overall in the near term, we still have to watch to make sure that the economy in general, not Tesla, that the U.S. economy can withstand these interest rate hikes. Because I think just not to get a can of worms here, I don't know if the Fed's done yet because the economy, to
there we
what
go.
Jeff was saying, that it's stronger than we thought. Housing's holding up, and the Fed keeps talking about getting it down to 2%. So I've heard Jamie Dimon talk about maybe we could expect, he's not always right, but 6% maybe Fed funds, maybe 7% Fed funds. And if you go that high, there definitely could be some things down the road. A recession could happen that could, cramp some of these companies and their cash flows. So I don't know, just something to consider. Just something to consider.
Won't happen.
Do you know how I know that the
Election
narrative
coming.
is changing?
Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead. What?
I was going to say it won't
Election?
happen. Yeah, it
Jeff's
won't
big
happen.
on that.
We
The
won't
election's coming.
we
No one's
won't-
going to do it.
we won't see the invisible hand. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist. We won't see it, but there will be a lot of pressure to not destroy the economy for one.
I
for one
agree with
number.
you, Jeff. But let me just give you a pushback. Not a pushback. Let me give you something that happened. So remember the 08-09 crisis, and Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, he sees it all imploding. Right? He did the lean. I'm not going to get all into it, but there was a lot of things going on. He's on his knee to Nancy Pelosi, please pass this bill. They couldn't pass it. They couldn't pass. Finally, they get it. So I understand we think, but politicians sometimes are finicky, and that was right on the eve of a presidential election, and the country was going down the hill. We were about to do Depression 2.0, and it took a monumental effort by Hank Paulson to convince these politicians, you need to do this now. And it took how many votes to get these people on board, right? So I would just be leery of thinking, the government's got everything under control and they're all working on this grand plan and the election's
I don't think
coming
they
up.
have it under control.
Yeah.
I don't think they have it under control, but I think they're going to. I don't think they want the backdrop to be 1 million people being thrown out of their jobs, 7% Fed funds rate, and I just don't think they want that to be.
No, I don't think they want it either.
They don't want that to
but
be
they
the
might
backdrop.
not. They might not have a choice.
Possibly.
I mean, the Fed hasn't been really strategic so far, and so I just wonder what would make them become reasonable. But I may be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, we heard some of the Fed chairmen talk about, again, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm just listening to what they say. So it has to be plausible. We talk about Bullard. I know he's non-voting, but we having some voting members, even some dovish voting members talking about maybe we'll go another 25. So all I'm saying is, people are waiting for this pivot or this pause. It might not happen. They might continue to raise rates if the economy is strong and there's still demand out there. So I don't know. Again,
they
these
have
are
to say
theoretical.
that, though.
Yeah.
They have to
Sure.
say that until the hour that they pivot. If they say that we're putting the brakes on, the markets will just go to town, and then it will undo all of the tightening that they've put in place. So until the hour that they're going to pause or pivot, they're going to be hawkish.
That's right.
I agree with you, but Powell at the last, he had the little thing with Bernanke. Powell didn't go out of his way to act hawkish like the other members. He was talking about, no, well, we could maybe wait and see. So he didn't go out of his way to, he was almost hinting like, I want to pause. That's my default, is the pause. Now, if the data says something else, I'll do something else. So I agree. This is very nuanced. That we love talking about it, but I don't know. I'm always looking for that one thing out of the blue that we're not looking for. Everyone doesn't think a recession's coming, and everyone said it's the most anticipated recession ever. And I was one of those people that said, "Where's this recession?" I said that before, but it's always when we put our guard down, because we see leading economic indicators down, right? That shows recession. We see the inverted yield curve. We see the credit spread starting to widen out. We see a lot of things happening that would say recession. Now, I don't know why it hasn't hit yet. Maybe it'll hit on the back half of the year. Maybe it never will hit. But I mean, I've never seen as much evidence for a recession than this. So I would love to get you guys, like, have you ever seen something like this and not get a recession?
Well,
yes, because the labor market is still strong. Have you ever seen a recession with an unemployment rate below 6%? I've never.
Right.
So that's it.
So maybe the unemployment doesn't go up because jobs are plentiful and the economy is able to do the soft landing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's leave with Elon's words. Let's leave with Elon's words, because I think we all understand that with him owning multiple large-scale manufacturing companies, his foot is kind of, he has the most data that anyone probably has out there. He says
I agree.
it will be a challenging 12 months. Tesla's not immune to global economic environment. I expect the macroeconomic level will be difficult in the next 12 months. Tesla will weather through this. But that said, it won't be darkness forever. My best guess is that the global economy turns around in 12 months and Tesla will be in extremely good position. Anyone who is a long-term Tesla investor will do extremely well. So yes, all of that stuff you just said can happen. But at the end of the day, Tesla's going to weather through it. And us investors, maybe it's going to delay our scenario for 6 months. The world's not going to, crash. It might, but it will, when it does turn around, and it could turn around sooner, but maybe it doesn't because of what you're saying, Christian. But when it does, Tesla is going to be one of the biggest, fastest, recovery. That's going to be the most generous return. So
absolutely, let's
just stick with what he believes.
I'm just more of a big thinker. I do a lot of reading, and if you could somehow avoid 50% declines and get out of the way of it, I like to think about those things. So I don't know. I guess I just read a lot, so it's intriguing to me to think about future scenarios, even though they're very difficult. They are, it's something to just have a chat about. So yeah, I know we're more of a Tesla show, but it's all. Yeah.
Okay, awesome, guys. Great the conversation. Thank you very much. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you.